My brother might be a pedophile. What do I do? This is just a thought. Is there a therapist clinic nearby who would treat pedophilia? If he is too ashamed to talk to you about it, maybe he would talk to a therapist. There might be online therapy as well, which might be more appealing to him. See if you can order some ads to his email or home address. Even if he can't change his sexual desires, he could get help finding tools to inhibit himself. Overseas teaching is suspicious. You'll have to talk to him. But I don't know what you'd say. He keeps telling you these stories, so he may want to talk about it also. So you could bring IIT culmination. You know all these stories you've told me, ha. I would convince him to meet a therapist. Maybe with an excuse. Problems within family. Some others' behaviors. ECT. I've seen that a lot of people is suggesting to sit and talk to him. But it's a very delicate topic. And an error. It happens. You have good intentions. But you're not a psychologist. May put him on a defensive mode, distancing him from you, and then worsening the situation. Traveling abroad to teach children is a perfect cover to indulge this kind of thing. Pedos take sex holidays for this very reason. This is a very tough situation simply because he is an adult and can do whatever he wants as long as he hasn't broken the law. So you only have your powers of influence and persuasion over him. If he hasn't admitted he has mental health issues or illegal sexual attractions by now, will he ever? I would give it a shot. Do your best, but don't expect much traction. You might be better to start with mental health. But if this fails and you are aware of specific illegal activity, you might report him to the police. They may be able to look into his problems in China and elsewhere. Others who have taught in China could weigh in, but I knew someone who taught in China for a decade, many years teaching ESL to children, and it can be very difficult. If he has this proclivity, I would imagine it would be hard to operate. Much harder than other countries. So his difficulties in China may not be related to this. This reminds me of my older brother. He was arrested for molestation years ago. Did time and got out for a couple years. We were convinced he was a changed man. He definitely seemed so. We were being stupid. We had found out he had been molesting my niece for 2 damn years, and she finally had the courage to tell someone. He was then arrested soon after and he admitted to it. Thankfully he's back in prison now. Don't wait until it's too late. You see signs. Please take action. My brother was too good at hiding things. Yours doesn't seem very good at it though, and it's obvious. Please, no offense, but your 40-year brother wanting to go overseas to teach children ESL reminds me of South Park's Super Adventure Club episode where old men travel the world visiting exotic places so they can be around children. Also, your 40-year brother going to eat lunch at a Chuck E. Cheese playground reminds me of Martin Chadwick from The Magicians when he teleported to a Chuck E. Cheese to eat lunch and watch children play. His character was repeatedly molested as a child. Never ever leave your children alone with him. So many red flags. I had a neighbor who was an ESL teacher in SE Asian countries. He also sponsored small children and helped to build schools. When those children were of age and had their own kids, he traveled to visit them and stayed for weeks at a time. I naively took it as being innocuous until he told me that there were pedophiles in his gay online chatroom. None of the seedier facts dawned on me until he was away in SE Asia for a few weeks and I remembered seeing him at parties my parents used to have decades before. I was 13F and he was about 25. I was creeped out by him back then. When he returned, I cut him off, nodding terms in the shared driveway. That estrangement panned out in a nasty way. Details spared. There was nobody I could tell because he had everyone convinced that I was unhinged and to be ignored. He had quite an influential presence in our community, but I continued to trust my gut. The man was dirty. He left a month ago, after a 6-year Cold War between us. He is now in South Africa doing GD's work and building schools. There is a new circle in hell for dross like him. I have a background in anti-human trafficking in Southeast Asia. I can tell you that some countries, Australia for example, will confiscate the passports of those convicted of child sexual abuse to prevent sharing their pedophiles with the rest of the world. And most Western countries will investigate and convict their own citizens for sex crimes against children overseas, including the US, many European countries and Australia. If he does go overseas and you suspect him of acting against children, don't let his location discourage you from reporting him to your country's law enforcement, FBI, AFP, etc. As to your current predicament, if he has a mental illness that is preventing him from taking appropriate care of himself, perhaps consider a call to your state's Adult Protective Services Department. Hi Op, as someone who has gone through this same situation here in the United States, there really isn't much you can do. You can try therapy, clinics and crisis centers, but just to be blunt about it, it will all be useless if he doesn't want the help or see something is wrong. His seeking out job opportunities in other countries is just his way of trying to stay out of trouble and reduce the risk to himself. The vast majority of countries on the planet don't have pedophilia laws like in the Western world. Some even look on it as a privilege and a way of life. Here where I live, we have had so many preachers and ministers arrested and charged with crimes against children, and nothing seems to ever happen, except for them being forced to move. It all comes down to religious freedom and what the Bible says about what's a child. Some of them see it as their Christian duty. Sick. The best that you can do is to wash your hands of it. Stay out of it and say a prayer he doesn't hurt someone or get himself hurt. Trying to get help for things like this is really hard in America because we really have not got the system to take care of mental issues. All we have is talkers and drug pushers in our system, but no real efforts to change people. To this day I dread getting a phone call that my son has been killed for molesting a child, or that he has been arrested for the same, or even worse. Keep children away. Do an intervention and get him to a psychiatrist. Only thing I don't get is he got in trouble for checking out young adult novels? Unless he's acting like a creep, that part doesn't make sense. Get him guidance, therapy ASAP. And good on you for seeing the signs. This isn't an immediate fix, but the book, I'm Not Sick, I Don't Need Help, by Xavier Amador is a great read for someone in your position who has a mentally ill loved one. Just one thing, having lunch alone isn't weird. I do it daily unless some coworkers tag with me. Have you tried talking to him? Even if he has those tendencies, it's harmless unless he acts upon them. So sit down with him and express your concerns. That's what family does. I regret to inform you this, but because of the mental health structuring and system of our country, you will not be able to find help for him. You will have to do what my paternal grandparents did with my father. Forcefully take over his entire life and restrict him to the point to where he lived in a shed in their backyard and was not able to leave. If you can't get the mental health care and you know that they're going to harm children, you don't really have any other choice. I know the concept sucks and it sounds extreme, but either y'all as a family can take care of him yourself, or he's going to start victimizing children if he hasn't already, until he creates a lot of harm or eventually gets caught. You have a few options. 1 is confront him. 2 is find a way to snoop. 3 is ignore it and wonder if he is raping children. Developmental delays and intellectual disabilities can lead to odd quirks like feeling more comfortable around kids. It doesn't necessarily mean sexual or inappropriate attraction to. I would snoop, access his computer and any USB hard drives he has. If I were caught, I would just say, "I love you." And no, you get upset. I had to know for certain. If I were a pedophile, I would be terrified to admit it. I genuinely don't care what you feel. I only care about what you do. I can't sleep at night knowing my brother might be hurting children. I had to do something.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. TooAfraidToAsk is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.